Canto 1 of the Lusiads. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Leni. The Lusiads, by Luís Vaz de Camões. Translated by Sir Richard Francis Burton. Canto 1. Argument of the first canto. The Portuguese navigate the eastern seas. The gods hold their council. Bacchus opposeth himself to this navigation. Venus and Mars favor the navigators. They arrive at Mozambique, the governor whereof attempteth to destroy them. Encounter and first military action of our people with the Gentiles. They weigh anchor, and, passing Quiloa, they ride in the roadstead of Mombasa. Another argument. Fazem concílios deuses na alta corte, opõe-se Baco à lusitana gente, favorece a Vênus e Mavorte, e em Moçambique lança o férreo dente, depois de aqui mostrar seu braço forte, destruindo e matando juntamente, torna as partes buscar da roxa aurora, e chegando a Mombasa surge fora. The gods hold council heaven's high court within, Bacchus our Lusian braves to thwart doth seek, who meed of Mars and grace of Venus gain, till cast the fairest tooth in Mozambique. Thence, when their arm of power displayed had been, death and destruction on the foe to wreak, fareth the fleet where red Aurora bideth, and reached Mombasa town outside it rideth. Canto 1. The feats of arms, in famed heroic host, from occidental Lusitanian strand, who o'er the waters ne'er by seamen crossed, fared beyond the Taprobane land, forceful in perils and in battle post, with more than promised force of mortal hand, and in the regions of a distant race reared a new throne so hot in pride of place, and eke the kings of memory grand and glorious, who high them holy faith and reign to spread, converting, conquering, and in lands notorious, Afric and Asia, devastation made, nor less the lieges, who, by deeds memorious, break from the doom that binds the vulgar dead. My song would sound o'er earth's extremest part, were mine the genius, mine the poet's art. Seize the sage Grecian and the men of Troy, to vaunt long voyage made in bygone day. Seize Alexander, Trajan, seize to joy the fame of victories that have passed away. The noble Lusian's stouter breast sing I, whom Mars and Neptune dared not disobey. Seize all that antique muse hath sung, for now a better bravery rears its bolder brow. And you, my Tagian nymphs, who have create in me new purpose with new genius firing, if 'twas my joy while here to celebrate your founts and stream my humble song inspiring, ho lend me here a noble strain elate, a style grandiloquent that flows untiring, so shall Apollo for your waves ordain, in name and fame ne'er envy Hippocrene. Grant me sonorous accents fire-bounding, now serves ni peasant's pipe ni rustic reed, but blast of trumpet, long and loud resounding, that flameth hard and huge of fiery deed. Grant me high strains to suit their jests astounding, your sons, who aided Mars in martial need, that o'er the world be sung the glorious song, if themes so lofty may to verse belong. And thou, O goodly omened trust, all dear to Lusitania's olden liberty, whereon assured esperance we rear in force to see our frail Christianity, thou, O new terror to the Moorish sphere, the fated marvel of our century, to govern worlds of men by God so given, that the world's best be given to God and heaven. Thou young, thou tender, ever flourishing bough, true scion of tree by Christ beloved more than aught that Occident did ever know, Caesarian or most Christian style before. Look on thy scutcheon, and behold it show the present victory long past ages bore, arms which he gave and made thine own to be, by him assumed on the fatal tree. Thou, mighty sovereign, o'er whose lofty reign the rising sun rains earliest smile of light, sees it from middle firmamental plain, and sights it sinking on the breast of night, thou, whom we hope to hail the blight, the bane of the dishonored Ishmaelitish night, an Orient Turk and gentle misbeliever that drinks the liquor of the sacred river, incline awhile, I pray, that majesty which in thy tender years I see thus ample, in now prefiguring full maturity that shall be shrined in fame's eternal temple. Those royal eyne that beam benignity, bend on low earth, behold a new ensample of hero hearts with patriot pride inflamed, in numbered verses manifold proclaimed. Thou shalt see love of land that ne'er shall own lust of vile lucre, soaring towards the eternal. For 'tis no light ambition to be known the claimed herald of my nest paternal. Here thou shalt see the great names greater grown, of vavasors who hail thee Lord supernal. So shalt thou judge which were the higher station, king of the world or lord of such a nation. Hark! For with vauntings vain thou shalt not view fantastical, fictitious, lying deed of lieges lauded, as strange muses do, seeking their fond and foolish pride to feed. Thine acts so forceful are, told simply true, all fabled, dreamy feats they far exceed, exceeding Rhodomont and Rogero vain, and Roland haply born of poet's brain. For these I give thee a Nuno fierce in fight, who for his king and country freely bled, and Egas and a Fuas, fain I might for them my lay with harp Homeric wed. For the 12 peerless peers again I cite, the 12 of England, by Magriço led. Nay, more, I give thee Gama's noble name, who for himself claims all Aeneas' fame. And if in change for royal Charles of France, or rivaling Caesar's memories thou wouldst throw, the first Afonso see, whose conquering lands lays highest boast of stranger glories, lo! See him who left his realm the inheritance, fair safety, born of wars that crushed the foe. That other John, a knight no fear deterred, the 4th and 5th Afonso, and the 3rd. Nor shall they silent in my song remain, they who in regions there where dawns arise, by acts of arms such glories toil to gain, where thine unvanquished flag forever flies. Pacheco, brave of braves, thou madest twain, whom Tagus mourns with ever-weeping eyes. Dread Albuquerque, Castro stark and brave, with more the victors of the very grave. But singing these, of thee I may not sing, O king sublime, such theme I fain must fear. Take of thy reign the reins, so shall my king create a poesy new to mortal ear. E'en now the mighty burden here I ring, and speed its terrors over all the sphere of singular prowess, war's own prodigies, in Afric regions and on Orient seas. Casteth on thee the Moor eyne cold with fright, in whom his coming doom he views designed. The barbarous Gentoo, sold to see thy sight, yields to thy yoke the neck e'en now inclined. Tethys of azure seas the sovereign right, her realm in dowry hath to thee resigned, and by thy noble tender beauty won, would bribe and buy thee to become her son. And thee from high Olympic halls behold, themselves, thy grandsire sprites, far-famed pair, this clad in Peastide's angel robe of gold, that crimson-hued with paint of battle glare. By thee they hope to see their tale twice told, their lofty memories live again, and there, when time thy years shall end, for thee they sign a seat where soareth fame's eternal shrine. But since ancient times slow minutes by, ere rule the peoples who desire such boon, bend on my novel rashness favouring eye, that these my verses may become thine own. So shalt thou see thine Argonauts o'erfly yon salty argent when they see it shone, thou seest their labours on the raging sea, learn even now invoked of men to be. They walk the water's vasty breadth of blue, parting the restless billows on their way. Fair favoring breezes breathed soft and true the bellying canvas bulging in their play. The seas were sprent with foam of creamy hue, flashing where'er the prows wide open lay the sacred spaces of that ocean plain, where Proteus' cattle cleave his own domain, when they who hold Olympic luminous height, the gods and governors of our human race, convened, in glorious conclave all unite, the coming course of eastern things to trace. Treading the glassy dome of lovely light, along the Milky Way conjoined they pace, gathered together at the thunder's hest, and by old Atlas' gentle grandson pressed. They leave the regiment of the firmament seven, to them committed by his high command. His powers sublime, whose thoughtful will hath given order to skies, and angry seas, and land. Then instant gather in the sighs of heaven those who are throned on far Arcturus' strand, and those that austere rule and orient tides, where spring's aurora and clear Phoebus hides. Reposed there the sire sublime and dying, vibrates whose hand the fierce Vulcanian ray, on seat of starry splendor crystalline, grand in his lofty jest of sovereign sway. Respired from his brow such air divine, that to divine could change dull human clay, bearing the crown and sceptre rutilant, of clearer stone than clearest diamond. On sparkling seats, with marquetry inlaid, of gold and pearl-work, sat, in lower state, the minor godheads, marshalled and arrayed in as demanded reason, rank, and rate. Highest the seniors of most honored grade, lower down the lower deities sate. When thus high Jove the deathless throng addressed, with awful accents dealing gravest hest: Immortal peoples of the starlit pole, whose seats adorn this constellated sphere, if the stout race of valor-breathing soul, from Lusus springing, still to thought be dear, your high intelligence leave unroll the writ of mighty fate, her will is clear. This deed to cold oblivion's shade shall doom the fame of Persia, Assyria, Greece, and Rome. To them 'twas erst, and well they wotted, given, albeit a power so single, simple, small, to see the doughty Moor from trenchments driven, where gentle Tagus feeds and floods the vale. Then with the dreadful Spaniard have they striven, by boon of heaven serene ne'er known to fail, and urged their fortune's ever-glorious claim to victor trophies hung in fane of fame. Godheads! I leave that antique fame unsaid, reft from the race of Romulus their foes, when, by their warrior Viriatus led, so high in Roman wars their names arose. Eke leave I memories which to merited honor obliged when for chief they chose that perfect captain, erst a peregrine foe, who feigned a demon in his milk-white doe. Now well you see how steel their souls to steer a fragile bark through dubious watery way, by paths unused, and holding naught in fear, notice and offers force, walks bolder they. How whilom every region left arear, where suns or shorten or draw along the day, on wings of stubborn will these men be born, to sight the cradles of the nascent morn. Promise them fate's eternal covenant, whose high commandments none shall dare despise. For years full many they shall rule the extent of seas that see the ruddy suns arise. On wavy wastes hard winter have they spent, or work they come by travailing emprise. 'Twere meet we show them, thus it seemeth me, the fair new region which they fain would see. And as their veilors so you trow defied on Aspr's voyage cruel harm and sore, so many changing skies their manhood tried, such climes where storm winds blow and billows roar. My sovereign mandate 'tis, be theirs to ride in friendly haven on the black moor shore, whence shall the weary fleet, with every need garnished, once more her long-drawn voyage speed. Thus hearing Jupiter's decree pronounced, each god responsive spoke in order due, contrasting judgment one and all announced, giving and taking various diverse view. But Father Bacchus then and there renounced homage to Jove's command, who right well knew his deeds on Orient lawn would leave no trace, were furtherance granted to the Lusian race. The fatal sisters he had heard declare how from Hispanian bounds a hero band should span the pathless deep, and naught should spare wherever Doris bathed Indian strand, should with new victories every deed out there, done or by his or other stranger hand. Profound he sorrows, lest he lose the glory the name still celebrate in the Nisan story. His seeds, while Indus he of yore had tamed, fortune or favoring chance had aid denied, to hear him India's conqueror acclaimed, by bardic men who drained Parnassus' tide. And now he dreadeth lest a name so famed be doomed for ever in the mire to hide of Lethe fountain, if on Inde bark this vaguing Portingal so strong and stark. But him opposed Venus, lovely fair, whose heart her Lusian sons had won the more, since in them sing the qualities high and rare, the gifts that decked her Romans dear of yore, the heart of valor and the potent star, whose splendor dazzled Tingitan shore, and in the music of their speech appears soft bastard Latin to her loving ears. These causes moved Cytherea's sprite, and more when learned she that the fates intended the queen of beauty should be glorious height where'er their warriors sway her sons extended. Thus he, who feared future stain and blight, and she, whose heart to honor's high pretended, urged the debate, in obstinate strife remaining, with favoring friends each rival right maintaining. As the fierce south or Boreas in the shade of sylvan upland where the tribbles cluster, the branches shattering crash through glooming glade with horrid hurry and infuriate fluster, roars all the mountain, echo moans in dread, torn is the leafy hill-heads boil and bluster. Such gusty tumults rise amid the gods within Olympus' consecrate abodes. But Mars, for ever wont to espouse the part of his dear goddess, whatsoever the case, or for old love that flickered in his heart, or for the merits of her fighting race, forth from the gods upsprang with sudden start. Stern melancholy marked his jacinth face, the ponderous pavois from his gorget hung, behind his shoulders full of wrath he flung. His bivouac helmet of the diamond stone oping a little, of his strength right sure, his sense to speak he strode and stood alone, Jupiter facing, armed, dour and dure. Then with hard penetrant blow he bore adown his steely spear-heel on the pavement pure. Quaked the welkin, and Apollo's ray waxed somewhat wan, as though by cold dismay. And thus, omnipotent sire, whose awful reign perforce obeyeth all thy power hath made, if these, who seek a new half-world to gain, whose deeds of bravery hast with love surveyed, thou wouldst not guerdon with a shame and stain that erst were favored through the years that fade, listen no longer thou, sole judge direct, to glozing reasons all we gods suspect. For did not reason in this matter show herself the victim of unmeasured fear, better beseems it Bacchus love bestow on Lysa's children, once his comrade dear. But let this vain and splenetic purpose go, since bred of evil stomach, for 'tis clear that alien envy ne'er shall turn to woes what weal men merit and the gods dispose. And thou, O sire of surest constancy, from the determined purpose of thy mind to thee not backwards, weakness were in thee now to desist thee from the thing designed. Send forth thine agile herald Mercury, fleeter than trimmed shaft or winnowing wind, and show some happy height where rest shall joy all weary breasts with news of Indian eye. As thus he said, the sire of sovereign might assented, nodding grave his awful head to Mars' opinion, ever fain of fight, and o'er the council showers of nectar shed. The galaxy, the pathway glowing bright, the deities all the Spartan rose to tread, royal obeisance making, and the road each took returning to his own abode. While thus it happens in the ethereal reign, omnipotent Olympic hides serene, the warrior people cut the curved main, austral and oriental course between, where fronts the face of Ethiopic plain far-famed St. Lawrence Isle, sol's brightest sheen, upon the water deities rained fire, who, changed to fishes, 'scape Typhoeus' ire. The wafting winds so winsome urge their way, as though the smiling heavens dear friends defended, serene the welkin, and the lucid day dawned sans a cloud nor aught of risk pretended. Astern the leek-green point of Prothom lay, an olden name where Ethiop coast extended, when ocean, opening broad, a vista showed of islets fondled by the circling flood. Vasco da Gama, valiant captain, for during do the noblest volunteer, of notable courage and of noble strain, whom smile of constant fortune loved to cheer, seeth no reason why he should remain where shows the shoreline desert dark and drear. Once more determined he to tempt the sea, but as he willed, fortune willed it be. For look, appeareth a flotilla yonder, mosquito craft that cleave the rolling tide, and with their flowing sails the surges sunder from the small island next the continent's side. The crews rejoicing in their hope and wonder could gaze on naught save what their hearts had joy. Who may be these? Each asked him in amaze. What law be theirs? What ruler? What their ways? The boats appeared in a manner new, long built and narrow beamed, for swiftness planned. Mats were the wings wherewith they lightly flew, from certain palm fronds wove by cunning hand. The people wore that veritable hue, Phaeton's boon to many a burning land, when worked his rashness on the world such ills, so Padus knows and Lampedusa feels. They come costumed all in cotton gear, of hues contrasting, striped, checked, and white. One zone-girt cloth around the waist they wear, other they throw on back in airy flight. Above the waistband each brown form is bare, decked targe and matchet are their arms of fight, skull-cap on head, and, as they wend their way, shrilly shawms and harsh-voiced trumpets bray. Waving their raiment and their hands they signed the Lusitanian folk to wait awhile, but Arlike prowers their course had now inclined to strike where sheltered by the nearest isle. Soldiers and sailors in one toil conjoined, as though were here the period of their toil. They take in sail, and strike the lofty spar, and ocean, anchors mid, froths high in air. Nor had they anchored when the stranger race, the shrouds upswarming, ready footing gained. Joyous they clustered, glad of jest and face, our captain gracious greetings gives unfeigned. He bids, incontinent, the board to grace with vinous liquor, firstly nails drained. They crown the crystal cups, the proffered wine, Phaeton's scorched folk nowise decline. A feasting cheery all the guests inquired, in Arab language, whence had come their hosts, who were they, where their land, what they desired, what seas their keels had cut, and conned what coasts. The valiant Lusians answered with required discretion, and asking foolish boasts. We are the Occidental Portuguese, and seeking Orient lands we sail the seas. We now have coasted, running ocean o'er Callisto's Arctic and the Antarctic lands. Our course hath circled Afric's winding shore, strange skies exploring, and yet stranger strands. Ours is a potent king, loved evermore, and we so prize his praise and his commands, with mien right joyful, not the sea and sky, but even Acheron lake we dare defy. And wend we seeking, by his royal will, where farthest Indus watered eastern plain. For him through wild white waves we hoist the sail, where ugly seals and orcs deform the main. But reason tells us that ye may not fail to answer, and of truth your souls be fain. Who are ye? What this land wherein ye won, and sign of India is to you beknown? We live, an island man thus answering said, aliens in land and law and eke in blood. Where native races are by nature bred, a lawless, loutish, and unreasoned brood. We hold his certain law, that holy seed, springing from Abraham's loins, who hath subdued the nations subject to his sinewy true, by sire a Gentile and by mother Jew. This little island where we now abide, of all this seaboard is the one sure place for every merchantman that stems the tide, from Quiloa or Sofala or Mombais. Here, as 'tis necessary, long we've tried to house and home us like its proper race. And fine, to find you with the facts you seek, man calls our little island Mozambique. And, as far faring now ye come to view, Indic Hydaspes and his burning board, hence ye shall bear a pilot sure and true, whose skill the safest guidance shall afford. 'Twere also well, ere you your toils renew, vital to ship, and let our island lord, who governeth this island, his guests behold, and stock with needed store each empty hold. His speech thus spake the Moor, and took his leave, he and his meanie where the battles lay. Formal farewells to chief and crews he gave, exchanging conges with due courtesy. Now weary Phoebus in the western wave had stalled the crystal chariot of the day, and gave his bright-browed sister charge to loom the vest of earth while lasted nightly gloom. Aboard the wayworn fleet blithe sped the night, in careless joyance recking not a fear, for the far land which long had scaped their sight at length gave tidings, and at last lay near. Now to take notice gins each curious wight of the strange people's manners, ways, and gear, and much they marvelled how the sect misguided o'er earth's broad surface far and wide abided. Rained Luna's radiance shedding rutland showers o'er Neptune's wavelets tipped with silver sheen, and like the Maymead flecked with daisy flowers sprent with its sparkling stars the sky was seen. The blustering storm wind slept in distant bowers, anchors obscure in regions peregrine, yet on the Armada's decks a weaponed guard kept, as so long they wont, good watch and ward. But when Aurora with her marquetry 'gan strew the glorious honors of her head o'er the clear heavens, and ope the ruddy way to bright Hyperion rising from his bed, lief is the fleet to dress in brave array of flags and goodly awnings gay to spread, that all may greet with holiday and hail that island lord who came with flowing sail. He came right merrily o'er the main, and sought to view our nimble Lusitanian fleet, bringing his country case, for 'twas his thought in the fierce foreigner perchance to meet the race inhuman which hath ever fought to change its Caspian caves for happier seat in Asian continent, and by will divine of rule imperial robbed Constantine. With glad reception our commander meets the Moorish chieftain and his whole convoy, whom with a gift of richest gear he greets, whereof a store was shipped for such employ. He gives him rich conserves, he gives rare treats, the liquors hot which fill man's heart with joy. Good be the gifts the Moor contented thinks, but more the sweetmeats prizes, most the drinks. The sailor people, sprung from Lusa's blood, in wondering clusters to the ratlines clung, noting the stranger's novel mode and mood with his so barbarous and perplexed tongue. Sometime the wily Moor confused stood, eyeing the garb, the hue, the fleet, the throng, and asked, with questions manifold assailing, if they from Turkey land perchance were hailing. He further tells them how he longs to see what books their credence, law, and faith contain, if these conforming with his own agree, or were, as well he weened, of Christian grain. Nay more, that hidden naught from him may be, he prayed the captain would be pleased to ordain that be displayed every puissant arm wherewith the foreigners work their foemen harm. To this the doughty chieftain deals reply through one that obscure jargon knowing well. Illustrious seigneur, I fain will try all of ourselves, our arms, our creed to tell, nor of the country, kith or kin am I, of irksome races that in Turkey dwell. My home is warlike Europe, and I wend, seeking the far-famed lands of farthest end. I hold the law of one by worlds obeyed, by visible things and things invisible. He who the hemispheres from naught hath made, with sentient things and things insensible, who with vituperate foul reproach bewrayed was doomed to suffer death insufferable, and who in fine by heaven to earth was given that men through him might rise from earth to heaven. Of this God-man most highest, infinite, the books thou wouldst behold I have not brought. We stand excused of bringing what men write on paper, when in sprite 'tis written wrought. But, an with weapons wouldst refresh thy sight, as thou hast asked, I deny thee not. A friend to friends I show them, and I vow ne'er wouldst be shown their temper as my foe. This said, he bids his armourers diligent bring arms and armour for the Moorman viewer. Come sheeny harness, corselets lucidant, the fine-wove mail-coat and plate-armour sure, shields decorate with scutcheons different, bullets and spingards, Dicebrook's temper pure, bows, quivers furnished with the grinded pile, the sharp-edged partisan, the good brown bill. Brought are the fiery bombs, while they prepare sulphurous stink-pots and grenades afire. But then of Vulcan biddeth he to spare their dread artillery belching flames in ire. Not did that gentle generous spirit care with fear the few and fearful folk t' inspire, and write his reasoning, 'twere both too cheap to play the lion on the silly sheep. But from whate'er the observant Moorman heard, and from whate'er his prying glance could see, a settled deadly hate his spirit stirred, an evil crave of treacherous cowardry. No sign of change he showed in jest or word, but with a gay and gallant feigning he vowed in looks and words to treat them fair, till deeds his daring purpose could declare. The captain prayed him pilots to purvey his squadron far as Indian shore to guide, so should with wealthy hire and worthy pay the labourer's toil and moil be gratified. Promised the Moorman sorely led astray by venomous heart and with such poisoned pride, that death in place of pilot at that hour his hand had given, and it had the power. So hot that hatred, sharp that enmity, wherewith his spirit 'gainst his guests was fraught, that knew them followers of that verity by the seed of David to our fathers taught. O darkling secret of eternity, whereof man's judgment may encompass naught, why should they never lack perfidious foe, who such fair symbols of thy friendship show? At length, surrounded by his crafty crew, the treacher Moorman from our ships took leave, an all-bestowing bellicoil and true, with fair, glad phrase designed to deceive. Soon o'er the narrow way his barklets flew, and landing safely from Neptunian wave, the Moorman, whom his suit obsequious greet, regained his homestead and his wonted seed. From either's radiant seat Thebes' mighty son, the gods who mothered, sprung from father died, seeing the Lusian host had straight begun the Moorman's hate and horror to defy, fixed every project some foul feet upon, by which the stranger host might surely die, and while the plot his spirit importuned, thus in soliloquy the god communed. Fate hath determined in olden time that conquests fit the self of famed outface this Portugal shall claim in every clime wherein he rears her war-ennobled race. Shall only I, the son of sires sublime, I, whom such generous gifts and guerdons grace, suffer that favouring fate success assure to men whose labours shall my name obscure? Erst will the gods, who willed away the right to Philip's son, that o'er this orient part he holds such power and displays such might, which bound the world 'neath yoke of angry mart. But shall I tamely suffer fate's despite, who lends these weaklings power of arm and art, Macedon's hero, Roman brave, and I, before the Lusian name, be doomed to fly? This must not, shall not be. Ere he arrive, this froward captain, at his fancied goal, such cunning machinations I'll contrive, never shall orient parts his side console. And now to earth, where I will keep alive the fire of fury in the Moorish soul, for him shall fortune with success endue, who on occasion keepeth fixed view. He spoke infuriate, nay, well nigh insane, and straight he lighted on the negro shore, where, mortal jest and human vesture ta'en, he made for Prosen headland famed of yore. Better to weave his web of wily bane, he changed his natural shape until it wore a Moorman's likeness, known in Mozambique, a crafty greybeard favorite of the sheik. And entering him to read at hour and time most fitting deemed for designed while, a tale of piracy he told, and crime, wrought by the strangers harboured in his isle. How all the resident nations maritime bruited reports of battle, death, and spoil, at every haven where the foreigner passed, who with false specks of peace his anchors cast. And know thou further, quoth the Moor, 'tis said, anent these Christian knaves sanguinolent, that, so to speak, they guard the waves run red, scathing with fire and steel where'er they wend. Far-framed plottings, certes, have been laid against ourselves, for 'tis their whole intent our homes to rifle, to destroy our lives, enchain our children, and enslave our wives. I also learned how determined be, forthwith for watering toward the land to steer, this captain with a doughty company, for evil purpose ever getteth fear. Go to, and take thy men-at-arms with thee, waiting him silent in well-ambushed rear. So shall his people, landing unawares, fall ready victims to thy ruse and snares. And even should they by this notable feat fail to be scattered, shattered, wholly slain, I have imagined a rare conceit of marvellous cunning which thy heart shall gain. A pilot bid be brought of wily wit, nor less astute to lay this skilful train, who shall the stranger lead where bane and bale, loss, death, destruction wait on every sail. These words of wisdom hardly had he stayed, when the Moor chieftain, old in fraud and wise, fell on his bosom, and full glad obeyed, such counsel finding favour in his eyes. Then instant faring forth he ready made for the base warfare bellicose supplies, so might the Lusian sea, when gained the shore, the wished-for waters turn to crimson gore. And eke he seeketh such deceit to speed, a Moslem loadsman who the prows shall guide, shrewd, subtle villain, prompt to wicked deed, whereon for dangerous feat he most relied. Him he commands the Lusitan to lead, and with him hug such coasts, and stem such tide, that in escaping present dangers all, he further wend, and whence none rise shall fall. Already lit Apollo's morning ray, the Nabathean mounts with rosy light, when dight was Gama and his stout array, by sea for watering on the land to light. Their boats the soldiers armed for fight and fray, as though they scented tricks of Moslem spite. Here was suspicion easy, for the wise bear a presaging heart that never lies. Further, the messenger who went ashore to claim the promise of the needful guide, heard tone of battle when replied the Moor, though none had deemed he had thus replied. Wherefore, in recking right how sore they store, who in perfidious enemy confide, he fared forearmed, forewarned, and risking naught, in his 3 launches all the boats he brought. But now the Moormen, stalking o'er the strand, to guard the watery stores the strangers need, this, targe on arm, and assegai in hand, that, with his bended bow and venomed reed, wait till the warlike people leap to land. Far stronger forces are in ambush hid, and, that the venture made the lighter seem, a few decoys patrol about the stream. Along the snow-white sandy marge advance the Gallic Moors who back their coming foes. They shake the shield and poise the perilous lance, daring the warrior Portuguese to close. The generous people with impatient glance the bandog's eye would dare their fangs expose. They spring ashore so deftly no man durst say who the soldier that touched land the first. As in the gory ring some gallant gay on his fair lady love with firm fixed eyes seeketh the furious bull and bars the way, bounds, runs, and whistles, backs, and shouts and cries, the cruel monster sounds of thought's delay, lowering its horned front in fury flies, with eyne fast closed, and roaring horrid sound, throws, gores, and leaves him lifeless on the ground. Lo! from the launches sudden flash the lights of fierce artillery with infuriate blare. The leaden bullet kills, the thunder frights, and hissing echoes cleave the shrinking air. Now break the moormen's hearts and haughty sprites, whose blood cold curdleth with a ghastly fear. The skulking coward flies his life to save, and dies to death exposed the daring brave. With all the Portingals are not content. Fierce victory urging on, they smite and slay. The wall-less, undefended settlement they shell and burn and make an easy prey. The Moors they raid and razzia sore repent, who looked for victory won in cheaper way. Now they blaspheme the battle, cursing wild th' old meddling fool and herd that bears such child. Still in his flight the Moorman draweth bow, but forceless, frighted, flurried by alarms, showers of ashlars, sticks, and stones they throw. Their madding fury ministereth arms. Now from their islet homesteads flocking row toward the mainland, trembling, terrified swarms. They pass apace and cut the narrow sound, the thin sea arm which runs their islet round. These ply the deeply laden almaty, those cut the waves and diligent swim the main. Some choke 'neath bending surge of surfy sea, some drink the brine out puffing it again. The crank canoes, wherein the vermin flee, are torn by smaller bombards' fiery rain. Thus wise, in fine, the Portingals chastise their vile, malicious, treacherous enemies. Now to the squadron, when the day was won, rich with their warlike spoils the braves retire, and ship at leisure water all their own, none meet offence where none t'offend desire. The Moors heartbroken vainly make their moan, old hatreds flaming with renewed fire, and, hopeless to revenge such foul defeat, nourish the fairest hopes of fresh deceit. To proffered truce repentant gives command the Moor who ruleth that iniquitous shore, nor do the Lusitanians understand that in fair guise of peace he proffers war. For the false pilot sent to show the land who every evil will embosomed bore, only to guide them deathwards had been sent, such was the signal of what peace was meant. The Capitaine, who now once more inclined on wonted way and customed course to hie, fair weather favouring with propitious wind, and wend where India's long-wished regions lie, received the helmsman for his ill design, who greeted was with joyous courtesy, and, given his answer to the messenger, in the free gale shakes out his sailing gear. Dismissed by such device, the gallant fleet divideth Amphitrite's wavy way. The maids of Nereus troop its course to greet, faithful companions, debonair and gay. The captain, no ways doubting the deceit planned by the Moorman to secure his prey, questions him largely, learning all he knows of general end and what each seaboard shows. But the false Moorman, skilled in all the snares which baleful Bacchus taught for such emprise, new loss by death or prison life prepares, ere India's seaboard glad their straining eyes. The heights of India diligent he declares, to frequent queries offering fit replies, for, holding faithful all their pilots said, the gallant people were of naught afraid. And eke he telleth, with that false intent, whereby fell Sinan balked the Phrygian race, of a near-lying isle that aye had land to Christian dwellers safest dwelling place. Our chief, of tidings fain, gave due attent of ear so gladly to these words of grace, that with the richest gifts he bade the guide lead him to regions where such men abide. E'en so that losel Moorman had design, as the confiding Christian begged and bade, knowing his islet was of old a sign to the malignant sons of Mohammed. Here he foresees deceit with death combined, for that in power and force the place outweighed weaker Mozambique, in that islet's name is Kilwa, bruited by the blast of fame. Thither the exulting squadron leaf would steer, but the fair god Cytherea loves to greet, seeing its certain courses changed to near the coasts where doom of death awaits defeat, knows that the people, loved with love so dear, such dreadful fates on shore so distant meet, and raising adverse gales she drives them wide from the foul goal where guides that felon guide. Now, when the caitiff Moor could not but know that in this matter useless was his guile, seeking to deal another devilish blow, and still persistent in his purpose vile, he urgeth, since the winds and currents' flow had borne them on perforce full many a mile, they near another island, and its race Christian and Moor hold common dwelling place. Here too with every word the liar lied, as by his regiment he in fine was bound, for none who Christ adore could there abide, only the hounds who worship false Mahound. The captain trustful to his Moorish guide, veering the sails was making for the Sound, but, as his guardian goddess leave the knife, he shuns the river bar and outside life. So near that islet lay along the land naught save a narrow channel stood atween, and rose a city throned on the strand, which from the margent of the seas was seen, fair built, with lordly buildings tall and grand, as from its offing showed all its sheen. Here ruled a monarch for long years high famed, islet and city are Mombasa named. And when the captain made that happy shore, with strangest joyance in the hope to view baptized peoples, and to greet once more dear Christian men, as swear his guide and true, lo, boats come bearing the blue waters o'er, their king's good greeting who the stranger knew, for long had Bacchus of the event advised, in other moormen's shape and form disguised. Friendly the message which the foeman brought, beneath whose surface covered venom lay, for deadly hostile was their every thought, and soon the hidden fraud uncovered they. O dreadful dangers with destruction fraught! O line of life-tide never certain way! Where'er his dearest hope poor mortal hoardeth, such scant security life ever affordeth. By sea such tempests, such sore injury, with death so often showing near and sure; by land such warfare, such foul treachery, so much of cursed necessities to endure. Ha! where shall weary man take sanctuary? Where live his little span of life secure, and 'scape of heaven serene the indignant storms that launch their thunders at us earthen worms? End of Canto 1.